recently launched a mobile app for FreePBX-based systems. So Clearly Anywhere is our mobile soft phone application. We think it's the easiest way to make and receive calls from where you are. It's available in Google for Android and the Apple Store for iPhones and iPads. Setup is pretty easy. Once you've configured the PBX, which we'll talk about in a little bit, the actual launching of the app and for your end users logging in and managing things is pretty simple. You install the app, and then you can either enter in your username from FreePBX and your password and your domain, or you can simply scan the QR code from within the user control panel FreePBX. So when you enable Clearly Anywhere for a user, they get a QR code inside of the user control panel, and they can scan that. Or if they bring up user control panel on their phone, they get a quick link that they can just click on, and it will automatically log them into their app. Licensing, how it's designed is it's unlimited devices per user. So a user could have this installed on an Android phone and an iPhone and an iPad, or an iPhone and an Android phone. So a single user can install it on multiple devices, and everything's licensed at a user level. So there's no limit on how many devices a user is allowed to install it on. Inbound calls. So inbound calls are delivered pretty integrated into iOS and Android. So your Clearly Anywhere soft phone becomes part of your primary extension. So if your primary extension is 100, your soft phone is also 100 as an additional device for your primary desk phone or primary extension. And any calls that would come into your primary extension 100, whether it's a queue call or a ring group or anything, or direct to the extension, will bring your Clearly Anywhere app. Inbound calls are delivered through push servers. So when the application isn't up and running and you put it in the background, and then Android and iOS kill off the registration to asterisk your FreePBX server almost immediately within seconds, our push servers take over, and all the inbound calls hit our push server, which then notify your phone of an inbound call, and you get it, what you see on the screen here, a pop-up, and you hit accept, and you answer the call. So we're still delivering inbound calls to you when the app isn't running, and we're not trying to keep the app running in the background, burning your battery and doing trickery trying to keep it open. So outbound calls, simply just bring up Clearly Anywhere, go into the keypad, enter in any phone number, extension, feature code, anything you would dial from your desk phone, and hit the call button. We have fully integrated SMS and MMS into FreePBX's messaging system. So if you're using a SIP carrier that supports SMS and MMS into FreePBX, for example, the ClearlyIP SIP trunking does, and you've set up that SMS for your users, they can send and receive SMSs right from their Clearly Anywhere app. No different than if they were managing SMS or MMS through UCP, the User Control Panel. And then we synchronize everything. And what I mean by that is if I've got multiple devices from my own extension and I send an outbound SMS from device 1, that outbound message will show on all my other devices, and it will show in UCP. So a lot like the Apple iMessage experience or some of the new Android RCS type experience where they're synchronizing across devices your inbound and outbound messages. So we do the same thing. We fully synchronize that across all your devices. Full quick dial capability. So quick dials are kind of not really contacts. Contacts are kind of your phone contacts. Quick dials are really what they are, a quick dial, but they also have the ability with quick dials to have BLFs to them, and those BLFs are server side from your PBX. So if one of your users that you've got a quick dial to is on a phone call, whether it's their desk phone or their Clearly Anywhere phone, doesn't matter, that extension is in use, they'll show on a call inside of your app. So you get full BLF support. Full history. So the app itself has a history. It'll show you all of your calls, either or just missed calls or any recorded calls. And then because of the way Android and app will now do all this call kit and native dialer stuff. All the calls that you do from Clearly Anywhere also show up in your native phone's call history. No different than how Facebook messaging calls do the same thing, or anything else you do nowadays. This is how mobile apps kind of work. So it'll actually show you it was a Clearly Anywhere call versus a normal call on your cell phone. Contacts. So when you install the app, like any other app you install, Android or iOS asks you a bunch of permissions, like are you allowed to use the microphone? Are you allowed to use the camera? One of them is, are you allowed to share the contacts with the app? So then the app will pull in all the contacts from your phone, from your actual Android or iOS native contacts, and display them to you in the app so that you can easily dial any of your contacts. Do not disturb. So we offer do not disturb in two ways. On-demand do not disturb that you can just toggle on and off. This is device level, so only this device that you turn on do not disturb will be in do not disturb. It won't put your desk phone on do not disturb. If you have the app installed on multiple devices for the same user, it's not going to put it on the other devices. It's for that device only. And then the ability to set schedules. So you could set schedules like from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. turn on do not disturb, because I don't want to be bothered in the middle of the night. I'm not working and my phone's registered and I've got that push server sending me calls. So you can enable do not disturb based on schedules. And you can do complex schedules. So you could have Saturday and Sunday do not disturb all day, but Monday through Friday only in the evening do not disturb. So pricing and purchasing. The pricing on Clearly Anywhere is done at a per user per year fee. The MSRP is $19.99 a user per year. We have an early bird discount through October 31st of this year. For any users that you buy, we'll lock in at $9.99 a user for life. So if you buy 5 users and then a year later you renew another 5, we'll lock that in at $9.99 for life as long as you keep renewing it. If you're adding users throughout the current year, so if you start with, let's say, 5 users and you need to add 2 more 4 months later, we prorate that, so you'll only be charged for 8 months out of the 12 that's left for those extra users you're adding. And then on your yearly renewal, they'll be back at the same $9.99 full price for those renewals. So how do you purchase? The easiest way for purchasing is just go to store.clearlyip.com. You can place an order for Clearly Anywhere. Those orders come into our order desk. They get processed usually in a half hour to 60 minutes. Once we process them, you'll get an automated email from our system asking you to fill in this little form here with a link to the form for some information together for the licensing. And then once you submit that back to us, it's about a 10-minute delay, and it'll then notify you back with an email on how to go set up everything, a link to your token, your license token that you put in the module, how many users you have, kind of this recap email. We'll get back to you. So it's from start to finish during business hours. It's about an hour process, usually hour and a half process before you're fully up and can go license your system on it. Your other option is you can request a quote from us. So go to our website and hit the Get a Quote button and put in your information, and we can provide a quote to you that gets emailed to you, and you can accept it and pay that quote, and we can kick the same process off. So how does this work with FreePBX, and how do we configure everything? So we'll walk through this live in a second, but basically once you have the Clearly Anywhere module installed on your FreePBX-based system and you've set up your token, you'll go into User Manager, and you're just going to enable Softphone for the users that you need it for. So you can either explicitly enable them, or you can enable the group they belong to and tell them to inherit the permission from the group. If you want them to have messaging, you can enable that and then pick which phone number out of all your DIDs that are SMS capable based on what, as long as the carrier is SMS capable into FreePBX. And you can then link a user to a specific DID. And a specific DID for SMS can be linked to multiple users for SMS. So it's not a one-to-one. It can be a one DID to many users. And then you'll log into the app either with your username and password and your domain that you gave us when you filled out that form, or by scanning the QR code, and you're done. You're up and running. So let's go ahead and do a quick live demo here. Okay, so here is my Clearly Anywhere module. So the first thing you have to do is install our module. You'll get a link when you do your purchase with a link on how to install the module. Once you've installed the module, it'll ask you for a token. That token is provided to you in that same email from the order desk. And you put in your registration token. And it's going to go and pair it now with what you provided us and license it. So I can see I've been licensed for 5 users, and I'm already using 2 because I've had this set up in the past. So I've got 2 users already set up on this PBX. So I have explicitly, and I have 3 that are being inherited from their group that they want permissions. So I've used 5 total clients, and I've purchased 5. So I've used up all my clients at this point. The thing we care about here is the domain. So normally the domain is going to be your external IP. These are, cell phones, right, that you're putting this on. For my test here, I'm showing it with an internal, but when you fill out that form to us, this domain is usually a fully qualified domain name or an external IP. And this is what we tell the phone to register to for asterisk. So this is the IP or domain that the app itself, once it's logged in, is being told this is how you register to asterisk. When the app goes to log in, it hits our provisioning server in the cloud, which is a redirect server. And then that provisioning cloud says, go connect to this PBX at this URL. And you provided that to us in the form. So what we're showing you is what you provided to us. And this URL here has to be routable from the internet, meaning your cell phone, when you go to log in, hits our redirect server. We look at the domain that you provided, because you give a username and password. All we care about is the domain. We match that domain to figure out who you are, and then we redirect to this URL, the login, to your PBX. So you're not actually logging in with us. When you put that username and password in, we don't get that. We're not storing that anywhere. That information is literally being sent to your PBX, and your PBX is authenticating it, and then it's sending back a config file to that device. So that's the URL here. And of course, we highly recommend it being HTTPS with a domain, so you get encryption on all that data. And then we're being told the connection is good. Our cloud server can connect to your PBX across this IP. And we're saying that the ports match. The port you told us to send data to is also the port you have Clearly Anywhere set up for provisioning. So we're verifying that that matches. We can see that we have a subscription and when it expires. If you come to our store and you later on say, hey, I want to buy 3 more users, then what would happen is once that order is processed, you'll get an automated email. It's going to tell you to hit this refresh button. That's going to go refresh your license with us and see that you have 8 now and update it to be 8 licenses. Or if you renew your yearly renewal, same thing. You'll hit the refresh button and it will go and update the expiration date. So we're going to go into user management now. And we're going to go look at this user 1000. And we're going to see in 1000 there's a Clearly Anywhere tab. And we're going to see we explicitly enabled the soft phone. We enabled messaging on that soft phone. And then we told it what SMS number is tied to this user. And now we can send and receive SMS on that DID for this user. So this user was all set to explicit enable. I can also go look at a user. For example, we'll look at 1003. We'll see 1003 under Clearly Anywhere is inheriting from the group it belongs to all of its settings. And if we look, it belongs to the group called All Users. So if we go look in All Users group in FreePBX, we will see that the group is set to yes for softphone and messaging. So that means all the users of this group who are set to inherit will also have softphone access, which gets back into the Clearly Anywhere telling us 2 of our users are explicitly given permission and 3 of them would be inheriting if I resubmitted that. So I can see which 2 are explicit permission at this point. So now that we've set up and said which users are allowed to use the app, Then we bring up our mobile phone. So let me get that up over here. So this is an emulator. There's bugs with emulators. One of them will be an SMS issue. You'll see that it's just an issue because of the way emulators work. But I'll bring up the emulator here. This is just an Android emulator. And we're going to log in with our userman username and our userman password. And then whatever domain that we're set up with here, which happens to be 1060.100.121, and we're going to sign in. And now we've signed in and everything's been synced and we've been registered. We have a white line around extension 1000 that tells us that the local app is registered to Asterisk already. So from here, we could go and make a phone call. So we could dial Echo Test. From here, you get your normal things, hold, you can start recording, attend a transfer, add a caller for conferencing, do a blind transfer, bring up your keypad if you need to do DTMF entries like in an IVR, hang up your call. So basic calling, we can see our call history here. We can see our quick dials. So currently, quick dials are added from the app. We are working on this being server-side where you can lay out templates that push to your users as a starting point of what BLFs you want them to have, and then they can tweak it from there if they want. So it's pretty easy. You just give it a name. So let's call it Fred and 1001. Enable BLF for Fred. You can obviously upload a photo if you want that'll be tied to that contact and save it. And now we can see anytime Fred's on a call, there you go, on a call. When he hangs up, it goes off a call. From here, you can, if you want to call Fred, you can just click. Oh, emulator's being weird. Well, normally you can click. There we go. And then you just place the call to Fred. Contacts, it'll pull in any contacts from your mobile contact list. I only have one, this test SMS. And then we get into SMS. So from here, I can send and receive messages. So I'm going to go ahead and start a message from another phone to here. And there we go. We got a notification of a test inbound. So this is where you get your normal notifications in Android. This is where the problem, this is one of the bugs in the emulator. It won't actually bring up the app. I have to close the app to bring it up. This isn't a problem in production, just with the emulator. And there we go. Now we can see the test inbound. From here, I could send an outbound. I can attach images and emojis and different things and send and receive images. So full MMS support into it. Do not disturb is done pretty simply. So you click on your little extension up here and you can turn on do not disturb. And you'll see with a nice red flag, do not disturb's on. You can turn off do not disturb. We can also see we have 2 voicemails. And back on the keypad, we get 2 next to here, and we get a voicemail button. So we can click on that to dial voicemail. And then we get into settings. The big thing here I wanted to show is the do not disturb stuff we talked about. So under preferences, we can go into do not disturb. We can add rules. So we could say Monday through Friday from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Could add a comment that says, nightly do not disturb, and add that. And now you could add another rule if you wanted for the weekends. Now automatically do not disturb will kick in based on those rule sets. So briefly, I want to talk about, we get questions about like what codecs does this use? So we support all your standard codecs, Opus, 722, 729, ULaw, ALaw, GSM, ILBC. And how the app determines this is based on what you have set up on your PBX system. So we have a preferred order that is hard set in the app that says always try Opus first, and then try, depending if it's Wi-Fi or a cellular call, it'll try either 722 or 722, then ULaw. It's in our wiki what that order is. And how that works then is, because we say try Opus first, it looks to see what you have written, what you have enabled in FreePBX. So if we go to asterisk SIP settings and we look at what codecs we have ULaw, ALaw, GSM 726 and 722. We actually don't have Opus. So this app won't try to use Opus because SIP settings doesn't have it. So when your phone gets provisioned from FreePBX, we have our list of codecs we support. We compare it against what list you have enabled on your PBX, and we write out the config to the phone based on what you have here. If you change these codecs, the phone itself reprovisions every hour in the background. It'll hit your PBX and reprovision itself every hour. Or you can go into the phone and tell it under the account, so settings, account setup. If we just hit save, it'll reprovision now. And so if we change codecs, then it would update the codecs if you changed them on the PBX. So it's smart where it's trying to figure out your codecs from what you have enabled on your PBX. And same with protocol. So we prefer UDP, then we try TCP, and then TLS is our preferred order. But what we do is we look to see what you have in SIP settings. So we go into PJSIP and we look, and I only have UDP and TCP. So it's going to first try UDP, and if that doesn't work, it would try TCP. It will never try TLS on the app because you don't have it enabled in SIP settings. Same logic as how we do codecs. So we take a lot of that guesswork out. We read it all from your PBX and provision based on everything you have in your PBX to make this easy. When you add Clearly Anywhere to a userman account, and a userman account is linked to an extension. So if we look, every user account, Mike Smith is linked to extension 1000. This is typical FreePBX userman to extension linking stuff. When I enable Clearly Anywhere for a user, it automatically goes into that user and increases its contact count by 2. So if the PJSIP max contacts, which is how many devices are allowed to register that extension, was set to 1, when I enable Clearly Anywhere in here, it's going to go change it to be 3. If you're going to install this on multiple devices, you've got to go into that extension and increase it more. We don't know how many devices you might put it on. So in your extension, under Advanced, there's a max contacts, and you're going to want to increase that. So if you're going to have this on 2 or 3 devices for the same extension, you might want to take it to 9 to be safe. We say you have to have 2 contacts per device, and the reason is the push server. Again, we have to be able to deliver calls when the app isn't running to you, so the push server registers to your PBX for your phone. So that means at any given time, a single device might have 2 registrations. One is the local device when you open the app, like right now the app's open, so it's registered, and then the push server is always registered. When I close the app, it's just the push server. So that's why for every device we say you need 2 extra contacts added. Okay, so we will open it up for discussions now. There's a Q&A portion in the webinar that you can ask questions, and we will try to answer all these. Do we get a copy of the presentation afterwards? Yes, we are recording this, it looks like. Thank God somebody started it. So we'll be making this available. Question, remove token. Can we remove the token from the server and add it to another server? Absolutely. So in the PBX, Clearly Anywhere, you can remove this token. Click the button, confirm it, and it's gone now. And now you can go add it to a different PBX. You would then have to make sure you tell us that the domain's changed. In the very near future, you'll be able to actually change that domain and URL settings from the module. Right now, you have to contact us and support if that changes. You'll be able to manage that yourself sometime in the next month or so. I don't know the exact dates, but it's being actively worked on. But yeah, then you can go and paste that token on any other PBX. So let's see what else we got. Does push authentication require whitelisting ClearlyIP server IPs? So depends. That all depends what you have set up for a firewall. If you're using like FreePBX's built-in responsive firewall, no, because it's going to let the push servers through. We do recommend whitelisting the IPs, but that is up to you. They are listed in our wiki, what the push server IPs are. So it's 100% up to you if you want to do it or not. It's not going to hurt anything. It's probably going to save you some headaches. To possibly have a template for BLFs instead of each user. So as we said, yes, that's coming in the near future. It's being actively worked on. They'll come out in an upgrade of the module. You won't have to update the app for it. Any plans to bring the Softphone to app to Mac or Windows? We wouldn't be commenting yet on that. We're getting plenty of requests for it, so we listen to our users and what they want to do, and money talks. So I think the best I can tell you is it's not out of the realm. I just couldn't commit to anything on that. If you configure one SMS did to multiple users, do all the users see both directions of all messages? That I'm not sure on. That would, because it's all inside of FreePBX's messaging bus. I would have to actually go play with that to see. I know you see all of your own messages, but I don't know if you're going to see outbound messages from other users on the same did. Does it support multiple accounts? No, the app registers to a single PBX. It's because it's getting its provisioning from the PBX. It would be almost impossible to know how to get provisioning from different PBXs at the same time, and the conflicts that would create. So at this time, the app is tied to a specific PBX. You can re-provision it on demand all the time, but it lists to a specific PBX. Do you have a list of U.S. carriers that provide SMS under FreePBX? I do not. I couldn't tell you that. I have no clue. I know we do. That's really what we cared about. Our own SIP trunking does provide SMS and MMS into FreePBX. That's something you'd have to find out from FreePBX where that's at. Does the Softphone use data if there's no Wi-Fi? Yes. So it prefers Wi-Fi. There's actually a preference setting for that you can turn off, but it prefers Wi-Fi over data, and then we'll flip to data if there is no Wi-Fi or if the Wi-Fi has a problem. It handles handoffs. So if I'm on Wi-Fi and I walk out of the house and I go to my data then of my cell plan, it handles that handoff. You might get a second of a blip in the audio, but you don't lose the call. It handles that handoff between Wi-Fi and data on your cell phone just fine. Does it do video calling? Yes, sorry about that. It supports H.264 and the V8 video codec. So as long as they're enabled, again, in FreePBX, it has full support for video calling, pass-through, one-to-one video calling. And that's just done, again, back in asterisk SIP settings. It just reads from your video codec. So as long as you enable video in here, and then it supports, our app supports H.264 and VP8. So as long as those are enabled, or at least one of those are, you'll get video pass-through between any devices that support H.264 or VP8. Is your module compatible with PBX? Yeah, we have lots of customers already using it on PBX. PBX is just FreePBX with a whole bunch of commercial modules added to it, so absolutely. Can you explain any of the key advantages over Zulu UC? That'd be for you to go decide what those are. We think we have a rock-solid, stable platform. It's got your SMS and MMS and phone calling and contacts, but that would be for you to go figure out. No whitelisting required for devices on dynamic IPs. Again, that would all depend what your firewall rules on your PBX are. If you're using things like the FreePBX responsive firewall to allow sit through, then no, you wouldn't have to whitelist IPs. Does this require the number of PBX SIP endpoints to be increased? As we talked about, we auto increase by 2. If you need more than that, you can increase it, but by default, Only when you enable Clearly Anywhere on a user, we then increase it by 2. Will it work on FreePBX distro? Absolutely. It'll work on any FreePBX-based system, not just FreePBX distro. So it works on things like Incredible PBX, hand installs of FreePBX that aren't the distro. It works on any FreePBX-based system. QR code for easy deployment of users. Yeah, so actually, if we log into UCP, I think I have UCP on here. So when you log in UCP as a user, you get this great little QR code. You can scan that from your phone, or if you log into UCP from your phone, you can just click this button here, and it will simulate scanning the QR code and hot link auto log you in, or what's called deep link. So if you click on that, it automatically loads the deep link, knows to load the app, sends it to the app, and automatically logs you in just by clicking this button from your mobile phone. Can you clarify SMS compatibility? During the presentation, you said it was that any trunking service that's supported in FreePBX. Another reply, it says only with ours. Nope. So what we said very clearly is or what I thought I said very clearly, any SIP trunking provider in FreePBX that has SMS support into FreePBX, we support SMS on because we get all that messaging from FreePBX's SMS engine. Clearly, SIP trunking, our own SIP trunking, for example, provides that feature. Others also provide that feature. Who they all are, I couldn't tell you at this time, but other providers do. It's a free PBX feature, not something unique to us. We just happen to be one of the providers that do provide SMS into free PBX. How do you handle disabling of the app when employer phone goes rogue? That's the beauty. You just go revoke their userman. Go delete or disable userman, and remember the app checks in every hour. So now that account's disabled, and the app's going to be disabled. You know, if you disable their SIP trunk their extension, then for sure they're going to be disabled immediately because they can't register anymore to place calls. You know, or authenticate. The way FreePBX works with SIP is every call has to be authenticated. So if you disable their extension, they're going to be unauthenticated. What version of FreePBX is required? Any 14 or newer. So this requires FreePBX 14 or newer. Can you purchase more licenses in the future? Yes, you can add on licensing at any time. We prorate it for what's left. So normally at $9.99, if you add on more, or the special of $9.99, if you add on more users, you get prorated based on how many months are left before your next renewal. So pricing, normal pricing is $19.99. Early bird special of anything you buy between now and October 31st is $9.99 locked in for all the renewals for life on that PBX. So if you buy 20 users between now and October 30th for a single PBX, they'll be locked in at $9.99 for every year's renewal. Your software does require full system admin password org. I'm not sure what you mean by that. You install the module in FreePBX. Users log in with their own user account. Every user in FreePBX has a username and password inside a user manager. So inside of user management, every single user, and this is FreePBX user management system, every user has a username, which could be their extension number or anything else, and they have a password. That's what they're logging in with. SMS is SMS and MMS, correct. It's not just SMS. We fully support MMS and SMS. Will the app work with Bluetooth? Yeah, absolutely. I use it every day. between the Bluetooth and my car, my AirPods, it doesn't matter. It's fully agnostic to Bluetooth because that's handled at your Android and iOS level. If there's a PBX hardware failure, will the access and license transfer the new PBX? Yeah, it's not like a normal commercial module because the provisioning passes through us, and then we're just redirecting it to the URL. So you can remove the token, move it however you want. There's no hardware lock on any of this, so you can move it at will. Somebody asked, does this support the old cyclic systems that was through one of our acquisitions? Yeah, reach out to us. This is fully supported on cyclic systems, the old Business Connect cyclic stuff. So reach out to us and we can work with you on it. So it seems like a lot of people asking about desktop. That's, I don't know, probably 10, 15 of those questions about desktop. So it's good to hear that. That's the type of stuff we want to hear. We'll definitely take under advisement. All I can say is right this second, no, we don't have it, but things can change, and we're ready to change that announcement. I'm sure, there'll be official announcements going out. Any more questions? Again, reach out to the sales team if you have any questions. As a dealer, can we buy a bunch of licenses and move them between customers on a license-by-license basis to allow demos? No, the users are tied to the actual token that you provide us. So when you buy additional users, you're telling us what token to add them to. If we open parts of the PBX, how does this open the system up to hacking? It would completely depend on what your PBX is set up as. If you're using the free PBX responsive firewall, which says, only allow a finite amount of SIP packets through until that phone successfully registers and then whitelist IP, which is how we run every cloud system we have, how every cloud system of free PBX out there is run. We're talking there's tens of thousands of them that have never been compromised with that type of setting. There's no extra security because vulnerability to it, because you're limiting the way the responsive firewall in FreePBX works. Is you're limiting yourself to 10 packets within the last 60 seconds until that IP address successfully registers. So a registration is about 3 packets when it's said and done. So you're getting 3 registration attempts in a minute, and then it's going to block you. So your chance of ever being hacked at 3 at a time in a minute, and then you get blacklisted and you got to wait an hour before you try again, makes it physically impossible to be hacked if you're using stock FreePBX 32-character random generated passwords that every extension has. What Android emulator desktop app did you recommend, even if it's just for testing? This is just Android Studio, right from Google. It's called Android Studio. Really easy to set up. Like I said, it's got quirks in it, but it's not bad to do things like demos and stuff and training. Is there a way to push out BLF key server-side? Is there a way to push out BLF key apps or set server-side do not disturb for app only? So if you wanted server-side do not disturb, you would have to create a quick dial that dialed your *76 in your extension number, which is the feature code for do not disturb toggle server-side, and there's a BLF and asterisk for it. It's not something you can do directly from the app. Generally, you wouldn't want that. The big feedback we got during early beta is do not tie this to server-side, because users aren't going to know that. They're going to hit do not disturb, and then their desk phone isn't going to ring. The most common use for do not disturb is I'm in the office, and I don't want my cell phone sitting next to me ring every time my desk phone rings. So that's why we didn't do server-side. As far as pushing out BLF keys, that is coming in a future update, as we've talked about. Okay. Anything else? Again, sales can answer any questions. You can hit our website up, hit the chat button, or open a sales ticket with us, or just pick up a phone and call us. We are a communication company. We love hearing from people, so we're happy to answer any questions. I want to thank everyone for attending, and we look forward to hearing from everyone. Thank you.